let's pretend these are alginate impressions. But if this was a full denture case, what would you do? Beading box. Beading box, okay? And look at the freedom areas. You would follow your profile, the contour of your vestibule. This is the mental freedom here. This is where you put your beading wax in that shade. Now, the critical point is how do you manage keep this from happening? Things like this on a maxillary. Wish I had one. Because again, if you just put stone in there, this will be thin. So you need to reinforce this distal extensions with your wax. And a lot of people will follow this and just end up going over like this, which is wrong. On a horizontal, you'd extend your wax up before it goes out, because that forms the border, this part right here on your impression. Okay. But as you go to the distal side, if you don't put the wax horizontally, if you just keep following the height, you're going to end up with still very thin distal. So there's a transition from a horizontal, from a vertical to a horizontal on the distal. Somewhere here where you start curving in, you go from here, extend it back. Okay? And normally, again, I would say 1/4 inch. Give me that much of a stone extension back before you build it up with the boxing wax, okay? So beading wax and then boxing wax. Sticky wax to put it together, okay?
So you're saying you have to extend the back with wax?
Yes, horizontally. This one...
With just the beading wax?
Yeah. Have me one of the rope wax, you know where they are? This way, because as a rule you go down, right? Some people go like this. Then you would transit. If you see something like this, there's no point letting that interfere with you. Just cut it across. Whether it's alginate or PVS or whatever. So now my wax continues horizontally. Okay, at the lowest point of that impression is where your wax comes up. You see it? So if you look at it straight on from the top, that's your border. Okay, don't go this one behind it, because then you don't have a border. Everybody understand that one? Okay, so that's one thing I love. On the mandibular, what would you do here?
Block this on space out.
You're going to block it because you don't want it to look like this. Again, if you come up with a U-shaped mandibular, it's going to go back to you. I want this built up, I want this thick, because I want to be able to mount it with a flat surface.
How big do you want the tongue space?
Lowest point, 1/2 inch.
So, but you don't want any like the tongue thing going on, right?
You can always trim this down. So if you end up with a real sharp, jagged, some people use paper and stuff. I don't like it. I have a way to make this come up so you don't have to trim it. I'll show it to you when we're demoing it. But if you have all this kind of build up here, you want to see the vestibule, right? It's going to go like this. And then you have all this rise. So you want to see that in the back and just cut it across. From here to here is 1/2 inch. So anything over that is in excess. It interferes with lab work if you have too much in the tongue, but you do need this filled in. Because if you don't, this area actually supports the strength of the whole arch. Okay? If this was not built up, that would happen in the lab. Okay? Is that as accurate as I can describe it?
Yeah.
So that's not going to happen with this, because this is the guy that supports it. This is the area you need. Never lose on that one. The risk here is thinness. If I drop this and it falls something sharp, bam. But 1/2 inch normally assures that you might lose the teeth, but at least you still have something, and you can put that together super good. Okay?